Welcome to the Intercut podcast, the weekly show going over the TV, movies, and entertainment that people can't cut away from. I am your co-host, Zachary Shevich, and joining me, he's my gangbu. It's Arturo Zurita.
I was hoping I was going to be your sandworm in IMAX 70mm, but I'll take whatever that one is, Zach.
You heard about this sandworm? Everybody's talking about this sandworm. It's huge. It's a big guy.
Yeah, I hear.
Yeah.
I hear it's massive. But we will be talking about Dune because one of us got to see it a bit early, along with a bunch of other movies in this October festival season that is jam-packed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a lot of good stuff. The hits keep coming with New York Film Festival. I gotta say, I've been going to the New York Film Festival for several years, and I kind of feel like this has been one of their better selections in a while. It just so many films from so many filmmakers I like, so many interesting works. A lot of stuff that I'm really excited for you to also catch up with as well, because I know you've got your own local film festival coming around, bringing a lot of good stuff your way soon. So it'll be fun to talk about all these fun fall movies. In a little bit, we will get into Dune, into The Last Duel, and wrap up my New York Film Festival coverage. But first, let's make sure that you're subscribed to the Intercut podcast, either the video podcast on youtube.com/intercutpod or the audio podcast available on most podcatchers. Also, follow Intercut on social media, whether it's Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook. We are at IntercutPod. That's at IntercutPod. That's short for podcast. We are also on Patreon at Intercut Pod, where you can support the show for as little as $1 a month. Please be sure to leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. I also think you can now leave us a 5-star review on Spotify. I hear they're adding that review feature to the podcast over there. So, that's a great way to support the show. Let people know that there's maybe there's some quality here. Maybe you enjoy the listen. Hopefully you enjoy the listen. I don't really want to know if you don't enjoy the listen that much, but yeah.
Let us know it's engagement.
just don't let us know in the iTunes comments. Like you can email me, you can hit me up on social media. That's fine. But like that iTunes rating, it hits a little bit deeper. So
it's too precious.
Yeah. We don't have to like compromise that just to make a statement. We're not that big. Anyway, please leave us a 5-star review wherever you can do that. When you do that, it makes me happier than finding out Paul Thomas Anderson's finally making a movie that's under 2 hours long. Not that I don't love a chance to watch 3 hours of Paul Thomas Anderson. I mean, like, Magnolia is one of my favorite movies ever. Basically everything he does is some of my favorites, but like a nice, tight, under 2 hour movie, pretty cool. Although
it has to be, because
you go ahead.
Ridley is coming in with 3 days worth of a movie in Gucci, so makes sense. He saw what the fall festivals had in store for us, and he's like, let me make mine the soft one.
Exactly.
Also, is that a Haim sister?
Yeah, that's one of the Haims in Licorice Pizza.
I believe that's how you say it. Yeah, I was looking at that. I was like, who are these actors? And then at the end it says Haim, and I was like, I only know 3 Haims, and I believe they're all sisters, so interesting.
Yeah. Not only one of the Haims, we got Cooper Hoffman, the son of the late Philip Seymour Hoffman in that movie, so a lot of really exciting stuff. I'm super excited for Licorice Pizza, if you can't tell. Yeah, that's the lead kid.
Man, Gandolfini's kid, Jamie Foxx's kid is in that commercial with him. Everybody's kids.
Nepotizing, alive and thriving.
Wow.
I can't mind it in the case of Philip Seymour Hoffman and Paul Thomas Anderson. Like, I don't know if you ever caught I think it was the Mark Maron podcast that Paul Thomas Anderson did, where he said when he first saw Philip Seymour Hoffman, he thought, that guy is for me and I'm for him. And like they just have this beautiful career working together. Anything that can keep that legacy alive makes me happy. Makes the film fan in me happy.
We'll see how it goes.
Yep. Anyway, let's get into it. The way we start it pretty much every week here on the Intercut podcast with what we're watching. Art, why don't you kick us off with what you've been watching?
Nothing but James Bond. I'd play the music in the background if it wouldn't get us copywritten, but dude, James Bond. I didn't go back to all of them, but we've been rewatching all of the Craig Bonds. Total of 5, his set completed. Obviously, we're not going to get into too many spoilers here, but I was very excited for this one. This is the one that had been delayed. Cary Fukunaga supposedly being the first American to ever come in to direct one of these Bonds. In the conclusion for the Craig saga, I really enjoyed it, man. I think it was worth the wait. I think it definitely needed to be waited because I don't know how much of the plot is out there. Obviously, it's James Bond trying to finish, one of his other missions as he's maybe going to fall in love as he supposedly has no time to die. But the whole premise of this movie does not work if it came out in the middle of last year, bro. It is about, let's say, spreading a virus that can target people and them not even knowing, a silent killer jam-packed in a theater that would not have worked. Obviously I was surrounded by people who were probably there for the first Bond. They were coughing. I was like, sir, please stop coughing because one cough from me and you're probably not going to be here. But the premise to this movie would have been bonkers to have released last year. So I'm glad that they, were able to save it the year. I'm glad that it is in theaters. I saw it in IMAX. The whopping 2 scenes that were shot in IMAX, which are early on in the movie, were fantastic. The rest of it, sadly, is not shot in IMAX, but I think still delivers up to a pretty good finale for Craig's Bond. But I know that Bond fans in general are a little mixed in it. And I think that's a positive, Zach, because that means that if you are just a casual viewer, and I think even if you are a Bond fan, you may not like all the decisions that are being made, but they're making decisions. They're doing new stuff that you've never seen in another Bond movie. Good or bad? I don't know. Time will tell. But I am very curious to see how they're going to expand this, whether they're going to reboot soon, whether they're going to continue with the characters that they do have and have almost like a James Bond spinoff that doesn't include James Bond. It's not like you don't have plenty of characters as well. Mm-hmm. You could also bring them back. There's plenty of missions in between. But personally, I thought all of the characters in this movie were enjoyable. I thought that the action lived up to it. So much so that I ended up seeing this a second time.
Wow.
In a format called 4DX. I haven't seen a 4DX movie since the horse one that Denzel was in and Chris Pratt. And all the seat did, it was the reboot, Magnificent Seven. And all the seats did was this, right? So 4DX is supposed to be that experience where your seat moves. There's air everywhere. You're supposed to be able to, smell-o-vision, I think, is involved as well. I went into this new Bond for a second time in the 4DX experience, mainly because I know that this is a movie where they're in planes, they're in trains, they're in automobiles, they're in everything. So if you're going to get the 4DX experience, this would be the movie to go for, right? I will say, getting beat up in 4DX is not ideal. I ended up being more bruised than James Bond was in the movie by the end of it because the thing's just knocking you around. Whenever they're shooting, look, I'm going to say, if you're going to go to a 4DX movie, there's a lot of gunfire. Ain't no reason to be shot up in 4DX. I'm in Chicago. I don't need to see that. The car scenes, though. The moment this man got in his Aston Martin, bro, oh my goodness. Fast and Furious movies, Need for Speed movies, that is what 4DX is made for. There is the sequence where he jumps up on a bike, just beautiful, just exhilarating, fantastic. I put this in the middle of the Craig Bonds. I think it's pretty decent. I still think Casino Royale is the best one out of these. I know Skyfall is the one that everyone loves the most, but I think that this one closes it out well. And if you see it without seeing the other ones, I think you can still enjoy it, but it definitely is a collection. You need to watch what's happening in Casino Royale to get and understand one of the characters. For those who don't know, Quantum of Solace was supposed to be a movie that had this secret organization, only because they didn't have the rights to Spectre. So they had to create Quantum. Skyfall happens. Then when they do Spectre, they finally regain the rights. And as if you've seen that movie, they pretty much just say, oh, yeah, Quantum is just underneath Spectre. This is a movie that kind of completes all of that. It brings back elements from the first one and everything throughout. And personally, I thought it was enjoyable. I know that it's getting some mixed reactions from some people, but I think that that's the – what more do you want? I think with a franchise that's so vast, that's been here for 25 whole movies, risk with it. I think the Billie Eilish song is also just as great as some of the previous ones that we've gotten. I will say right now that I see one of the comments about Ana de Armas. A lot of people were saying she wasn't going to be in this movie for long. She's not in the movie for long, but damn, Zach, when she's in the movie, she's in the movie. I'm going to say that much. I thought she delivered on that aspect. So overall, I had a pretty good time with it. I'm excited to see what else they roll out with. But I give it a recommendation. I think it's pretty good.
Yeah, I think one of the defining features of the Craig Bond has been it's the series' attempt to kind of defy our expectations for what we get from a Bond movie. Whether that's the kind of like more gritty action sequences that Devesh pointed out is something that kind of stole from the Bourne series, which was very popular around the time that they
Yes, sir.
first introduced Craig, or whether it's the continuity that occurred through the Craig Bonds that again was sort of like changing what we expect for Bond, which is a movie that tends to kind of just like wipe the slate clean each and every time we get a new installment of it. So, it's been interesting to see what all the different ways they've attempted to kind of freshen up this property and freshen up the character, make it more interesting to audiences. For me, it's always been a bit hit or miss. Where do you have No Time to Die among the Craig Bonds in your ranking?
3.
Right in the middle.
But it's weird because you need Spectre for this movie to really fulfill its purpose. Like, you really do need Spectre. And I'd say you also need Casino Royale. But again, I think as of right now, I have Casino Royale at the top, Skyfall, this one. Look, I'm not a Quantum hater. I understand all the garbage that was in that movie and all the behind the scenes of that one. I kind of have Spectre and Quantum tied for the last ones, but I thought it was decent for what it was going for. I enjoyed it. I don't think that Rami is the best villain, though. I don't think he comes close to what our boy did in Skyfall, and even was it Shafir with was it Mods?
Yeah, Mods or Javier Bardem.
But
Pretty iconic Bond villains as far as that goes.
Easily. But I do like the fact that he's an original villain. So, only time will tell to see if they remix him. I think it's really cool to see someone not do a take on a character, but to do the first take of a character that will then be rebooted later on. So it'll be interesting to see how it goes. They do have the same similar thing that they do with all the other ones. In Skyfall was like, this is like Bond if he would have done something else. And then Inspector, the character of Franz, was like, he could have been Bond, but he went somewhere else. The same thing happens here. It is pretty repetitive when it comes down to that, but so still decent.
Yeah, and to go back to that Arna de Armas thing you mentioned, I don't know if you saw this tweet that Andrew Barker posted, but I thought that really resonated with me, even though I haven't necessarily seen the film. He's saying that Ana de Armas is not underused. She shows up and blows the roof off of the movie for 10 minutes, then takes a bow and leaves. And I kind of think we need more stuff like that in bloated movies. It's already a 3-hour movie as is. How much more do you want them to spin their wheels and kind of like extend the thing?
I would agree, because she's in particular, she's in the Cuba scene, and I would say a lot of people are saying that she's only in it what felt like a cameo. I think she's in it for a sequence. She's in it for what she needs to be in as an agent who's from that location. So again, that's why I was saying I think it would be interesting if they end up doing that with the Bond franchise, because that's not something they've really expanded into, spin-offs. And as we know, everything does a spin-off nowadays. And for a franchise that's been so long, they were really one of the first things to really create a franchise. There's this whole behind the scenes in a lot of the docs that I was watching, in where it was Orson Welles himself who came in and was talking to, I believe, the director of Dr. No, which was the first one. And he told him, he's like, you've changed the game. Everything is different because of you. Even saying that what would then be the first Indiana Jones movie, he's like, you started this adventure, this franchise, this new type of way of looking at movies. And the 007 is one of the longest standing franchises. So for one of the biggest properties to have created one of the longest franchises and everybody else follows suit, everybody else is now doing spin-offs. I think now it's time for James Bond to a degree kind of follow what everybody else is doing. And I think be it a TV show, be it whatever ends up happening with Prime, because obviously Prime has been eyeing MGM. Mm-hmm. And if Prime touches MGM, then it's a no-brainer. It's no doubt that they're going to be milking it for as much as it's worth. I mean, they did that with the Jack Reacher series. They're going to be doing it with this as well. So only time will tell to see what they end up doing.
Definitely. I'm curious to check this one out. I missed... I was hoping to catch it over the weekend, but man, so much stuff to watch.
I hope you like it.
Yeah, I will definitely catch up with it once I do get around to it. I know there's some other stuff that you caught recently. I don't know if you wanted to touch briefly on the Jesus music, which I believe is available in theaters now.
The holiest of docs out there right now. I was really excited about this one based off the trailer. It's about CCM, really the creation of CCM by the people who pioneered it. And once I saw it, I think it is a solid doc for those who want to look back at the genre of contemporary Christian music. Then I saw who directed it. I don't know if you know who these two brothers are. They're not bad directors. In the Christian world of filmmaking, they have done some of the most prolific movies that are out there, dealing with musicians who are even in this movie. They had done the film I Can Only Imagine, which was about Mercy Me and that band. Did the Jeremy Camp one, which was I Still Believe. I have been making the joke that they're just going to be making these cinematic versions of real Christian artists, and then they're going to do like an end game where they all just combine for like a concert. Well, this is them doing a doc with all those said people. My biggest issue with the doc is that it's produced by the people who are in the doc. And I don't think you're going to get an honest documentary if it's being produced by Michael W. Smith, who wants to tell you how he was able to become the biggest Christian artist in the world because he released his album on 9/11 and everybody wanted to go to church and worship. When Amy Grant is telling you about all the turmoils and stuff that she's gone through, one of them, as she explains, was a bump in the road. You check the wiki, it's called cheating. But the way that it's presented in the doc, it's more of a feminist approach, which is really interesting because as someone who not just understands Christian contemporary music, but Christians, that's usually not a point that would have been made in the past. Lecrae is also prominently shown in the trailers, which was something that I was very interested in. I worked on several videos dealing with Christian music, and one of them was particularly about Lecrae. It feels like they saw that video. And at the bare minimum to cover it, man. This dude he comes in at the beginning for one line, and then when he finally appears at the end of the doc, can you guess what section it's for? If we're covering the Christian side and the conservative side, and hell, a little bit of feminism, a little bit of BLM as well. They bring in Lecrae to just talk a little bit, but they never play his music. And I found that a little iffy because it's like, how are you going to bring in someone to talk? A man who actually has a track called Jesus Music, and then just have him be there for the woe is me part. And I think that's where, again, the doc does a good job at looking back at the popularity of the genre, but it doesn't really dig deep into it. If anything, I feel like they're covering their tracks because they're only like saying, hey, but we're also here for the black musicians. They have a black musician in this who's saying like, I feel like we haven't been welcomed into this genre, but they have to understand that we're family. And all I'm thinking while I'm watching that sequence is, did you even meet the producers of this? I'm watching this and I'm going like, how do you not feel welcomed? Yet you're in a doc for the people who created the genre who should have made you feel welcome. I don't know. It's like kind of like when Disney tries to pat themselves on the back for including the first, whatever character, but it's like, y'all never included them in the past, so you're not really congratulating you for being the first. It just took you this long to be here. Nonetheless, it's a decent doc for what it's going for. If you're a listener of CCM, I think you will enjoy all the flashbacks to DC Talk and how they started, and just all the behind the scenes when it comes to how they were able to make it a business. And there were some points where they talked about the business side, which I was like, damn, I wish I would go in. But as soon as they start talking numbers, they had to come back to faith. Faith, it's for the love of the Lord, but also that money. So yeah, I'm curious to see what people think about this one. This one is available in more places than I will say the other Christian movie, which is God's Not Dead 4, which I see Devesh saying right there that this one was number 10 in the last weekend. Yeah, good for them. Because God's Not Dead lied about being number 1, and everyone went through the list, and they weren't even in like the top 50. It was embarrassing. That is a movie, God's Not Dead 4, that is only available as a Fathom event. I was telling Zach this. You cannot use your AMC stubs, your Regal. I don't even think you use a coupon if you had it. You literally need to pay the Fathom event pricing to go see God's Not Dead again. So I will catch that one eventually and get back to your thoughts on that. But in terms of a decent documentary, it was this. It could get deeper, but that would have to be made by someone who aren't brothers and friends with all of the musicians who are in this. But it's all right. It's all right. It'll be on PureFlix soon, probably.
Yeah. Magnitude is pointing out there's 4 God's Not Deads.
They got to keep reminding you, man.
Yeah, he's still not dead. Apparently,
you'd think they would have called one God's Still Not Dead, but they never did.
Right? You can't. You got to sequelize the names at some point. You just can't go numerical over and over again. That's old fashioned. That's like Police Academy stuff.
But yeah, I'd say that one's there. I saw someone talking about Lamb. Zach, I don't believe you saw Lamb yet. We'll be catching that one soon.
Yeah, that's the topic of the day. It seems we got a couple people trying to see if we got Lamb reactions. I know Jay wants us to talk about Lamb. Neither of us have had a chance to see Lamb. There's a lot going on. Obviously, I was at New York Film Festival, so I didn't get my chance to. But I think we'll both try and catch it this week. Hopefully, we have the time and report back next
Yeah, the
week.
40X showing was sold out for Lamb.
That would have been interesting. Like maybe I don't know. I know it's not always like feel, but it'd be cool if you had like one of those scratch and sniff, but it was like wool or something.
That'd be manure in their farm, bro. You're just gonna get bad off to the right side of your chair. I don't know. I'm interested in this one because another one that got just massively mixed reactions. Some people were falling asleep. Some people were saying that it's just as weird as it should be. I'm excited for it. Well, I'm at Chicago Fest. I'm going to try to sneak this one in as well as what you got merch for right there in the back, the new documentary, The Rescue. So by next Monday, I should have some thoughts on this. Hopefully, Zach gets to catch it as well, along with his final New York thoughts and Chicago thoughts. But don't worry, we will get to Lamb. We will do it justice. Hey, no, you got to say this one. We had Lamb. We got pig. We got cow.
Got cow. There was First Cow last year.
First cow. That was last year.
I feel like there was another one too, but yeah, the old McDonald year for movies. We got a comment from Jay that I genuinely loved Lamb. I'm a bit surprised that people are so mixed on it, more so than usual A24 films. Yeah, I'm very curious to see because scrolling down my Letterboxd page, I'm seeing a 1.5-star reaction, a 4-star reaction, some 2.5 stars, some 3.5 stars. So it's not very consistent in terms of how people are responding to Lamb.
Makes me excited.
Yeah, exactly. Those are usually the most interesting movies, the ones that inspire those kinds of divisive responses. So definitely curious to check out Lamb when we get the chance to, but you were talking about another movie that I saw recently. If I can pull up my link to it. Where is this? Getting away from me. So yeah, the latest movie from the directors behind one of our favorite recent documentaries from a couple years back, the Oscar-winning documentary Free Solo. Elizabeth Chai and Jimmy Chin are back with The Rescue.
Jimmy.
A story about the people who rescued the Thai soccer team that was trapped in the cave. If you remember that story that was dominating the news a few years back of these children who were somehow trapped in a cave. And it's kind of one of those stories that's like very hard to kind of figure out from the outside, right? Like unless you're doing the deep dives, it's such a nuanced thing that like you only kind of get the surface. Like these kids are trapped and like they're trying to rescue them, but it's hard to rescue them, and then you eventually figure out like somehow they got out. This is one of those documentaries that takes one of those news stories that maybe you've heard bits and pieces of and really dives deep into uncovering each step of the process, all the different arguments that were had and people that were involved and elements that went into saving these kids. And it's really remarkable. Watching this, I was just sort of convinced that like humans have never done anything more impressive than this, than like navigate how to get children out of like mortal danger using anesthesia and diving equipment and all the, I don't know, man. It's crazy impressive to watch. I had maybe some issues with how the documentary was approached, you know, given that the story is so much about how these kids were in peril and how the media descended on this story. I think I would have liked to have heard from the actual people who were in danger, the victims here, or the families of the victims here, and you only see them in little bits of footage. I wonder if maybe they just didn't want to talk for this documentary or whatever, but it did feel like that element of it was missing. Instead, what you get is like a hyper focus on particularly the diving team, all these hobbyists who were brought in to make this rescue, because basically the people who are the best in the world at this kind of these kinds of cave divings are people who just have like regular jobs and do this on the weekend, and suddenly they're in charge of saving, I think it was like 13 kids, something like that. Really, really incredible story, really riveting. I liked it a lot. I actually caught it at the Central Park Conservancy Film Festival. So, something I didn't know
That's a
existed,
good one.
but yeah, it's cool. We sat outside in Central Park. I only saw one rat scurrying
Oh, that's
around a
actually pretty
lot,
dope,
and
though.
I kind of had to like hit my shoe on the ground to
Hey,
scare the rat away.
they
But
got their ticket too, dude.
yeah,
They
I
came
mean,
to watch this movie. They've been waiting for it. They kept up with the story.
all species welcome, I guess, at the Central Park Conservancy Film Festival. And I'm really not trying to slander them because I think it's really cool. It was a beautiful way to watch a movie, and like I've
Sounds
watched
kind of fire, dude.
I've watched outdoor screenings of movies a lot, and I feel like just the way the technical aspects of it were perfect. Like the screen was really great and the sound was really great. And it's just beautiful to be able to sit outside and watch a new movie. So I dug that.
Nice.
I told you earlier that I performed my own little extraction mission. I gifted myself some swag from the after party, so hopefully nobody is gonna get mad about that. But now it has a little home on the Intercut set. It's my rescue pillow.
There you go.
Magnitude says, bro, I'm so unbelievably excited for the rescue. That's a good thing to be for a new documentary from the people who brought you Free Solo, because that is a Free Solo in particular is a very, very good documentary. And the way that they're able to keep you on the edge of your seat in Free Solo, they do a really good job of evoking those feelings in the rescue. So yeah, if you're excited for this one, I think you're going to be satisfied with it.
Sweet. Looking forward.
Yeah. So what else do we got? I think you wanted to talk about some of the festival movies that are starting to come out, because we've seen a whole bunch of films that originally played at Sundance or South by Southwest or Tribeca, or even at some of these early fall film festivals. And now they're going to be available more widely, whether they are in theaters or available on VOD and digital. So we want to kind of bring up a few of those movies that maybe you heard us talk about months back. Maybe you missed those episodes and just need that refresher. But let's start it off with Luzu, which is one of the films that won an acting award out of the Sundance Film Festival earlier this year. I actually missed this one, but I know you caught it.
Oh.
What did you think about Luzu back when we saw it in January?
Super solid movie. This one is about a fisherman who is based in Malta, and everything's kind of changing. Not just some of the, call it conspiracies that are happening in the fishing community, but also just the way that everything's been shifting because he's not able to find the fish that he can. All this is happening alongside his own family turmoil that's going on at the same time. And I would say that wasn't my favorite performance out of Sundance, but solid contender right there. So good for him for getting the award. I know that it was also a really big deal because it's supposed to be one of the first features shot in Malta. I know they were really pushing that at Sundance, but I thought it was a solid little movie. I would recommend this one. I'm not sure if it's going to be playing theatrically, but I think this would be a good one to rent even if it's on VOD. I like a lot of the themes that are in it. And like I said, solid performance from the lead actor.
Yeah, I'm curious to catch up with this one because, it did take home that award and did seem like a pretty interesting premise there. With this fisherman who's kind of like flirting with the wrong side of the law to help his family.
That too.
Yeah. Got it.
And then just with a lot of the documentaries that I know people have been seeing, just from Netflix had that one about the fish stuff. The Seaspiracy was out there. Like every single streaming service has one that's telling you about the fishing communities around the world. So as long as you've seen one of those, I think you'll kind of have the background to what you need to know for what's happening in this movie. But again, it's a really good drama that follows this character and what he has to go through. So put that one on your list if you are interested. That was one of the ones we caught at Sundance back in January. One of the other ones, I don't know if you ever got the chance to catch it, but it is also coming up. Sons of Monarch. This is one that is starring Tenoch, who, my man, representing Mexico. This dude was recently in The Purge. Not a fan of the newest Purge, but I loved all the chingons that he gave in that movie. He was also in rewatching Spectre because we had this joke about how he's credited as Man on Lift. Yeah, he is the man on the elevator for 3 seconds that you see with James Bond. As one of his most prolific ones, and I know that he is now getting picked up to be over at Marvel. I don't know as what. So just know that you're going to see Tenoch, and you're going to see him. because this man went through that transformation. He looks built as can be. Some of you may also know him from, I believe, one of the seasons of Narcos, but here he plays the complete opposite. He plays an immigrant who leaves Mexico, leaves everything behind in order to become a scientist who, in particular, studies butterflies, these monarchs who, just as what he went through, leave their habitat during winter to go somewhere else, and they kind of change colors in order to adapt. So it's kind of this immigrant story that's following someone who isn't just your everyday worker. He is someone who studied, went to science, and how he's correlating between those monarchs and how it reflects to not just his journey but also the spirituality of it. A very interesting perspective, I will say that. I was looking more at the filmmaker, and he is a filmmaker who really focuses on like science. So there are moments where he's trying to be very narrative based, but it is more scientifically based. Mosaic would have been another one. We have plenty of directors that we enjoy from Mosaic who worked on this kind of like anthology film. If you go through the crew, you'll see a bunch of directors who worked on
Josephine Decker there.
Noah Hutton, another dude who we really enjoy, and he's been doing a lot of scientific-based stuff. I would say that Noah Hutton, who went, and I know he spent like 10 years in one of these docs that we saw from him, where he was like learning about the human mind and such. He ended up making Lapsus, which kind of took everything that he was seeing behind the scenes, trying to make it into a narrative. This is kind of what he was doing here in terms of the world of science and trying to make a narrative of it. I think I really like the themes of it more than I enjoyed, I guess, the movie. But I have my stocks on Tenoch, and I'm all in. I am banking on this man. I'm telling you right now. I hope he kills it with the Marvel movie that he's coming out with, and I hope that he takes it from there and is able to get a lot more projects over here in the States, because he's been sneaking his way into a lot of things, and I think he deserves it.
Yeah, I wasn't a huge fan of Son of Monarch when I saw it at Sundance, but it's definitely a very interesting movie. I mean, especially the way in which it's able to combine this very like intellectual perspective, this very scientific approach, and then something that's a little bit more emotional. I didn't know, it didn't always coalesce for me, but it's very, very interesting.
Weird take.
It's also, so I think it's going to be in theaters this weekend. Is that true?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And then it's going to be on HBO Max on November 2nd. So very soon.
I definitely would say, yeah.
At home.
I'd give it a rented, so definitely if you can catch it on HBO Max if you're not feeling it. Because the first half is a little bit slower. It's also like two completely different movies. The first half is like an immigrant story, and the second half becomes this trippy, not fully trippy, but like they're doing things with the spiritual, scientific side of it that they're trying to clash. They're trying to say a lot. Whether they say anything is up to you, but I kind of got the vibes of what they were going for in terms of this character's story arc. So if it piques your interest, put that on your list.
And I think one of our regular commenters, one of our intercuties, Ismail, is a big fan of this one too. So yeah, there are people who really responded to it. If it sounds like it's up your alley, it's going to be available at home not too long from now, in theaters this weekend. So another one from the festival circuit.
Bruce Wayne, Mr. Wayne himself, Batman in the comics, is saying that he's rumored to be Namor. I've been hearing that a lot. I feel like he's going to be a villain. A lot of people keep saying Namor. We'll see. If it's Namor, dude, that is a role. I don't know who he'll be, but that is also what I've been hearing rumored. So we'll see. I just know that.
What is a Namor? You have to you have to translate this for me. The comic book stuff. What is a Namor?
All right, some people may not enjoy it. Marvel Aquaman.
Oh, okay.
I guess it's the easiest way. There you go.
Cool.
To a degree. I don't want to say that. But watch this movie and say that you saw Tenoch and that you had him on your radar. That you caught a movie with the man before he blows up.
All right, so sticking with the stuff that is coming off of the festival circuit, let's move to one that we caught at South by Southwest. That is introducing Selma Blair, a film about the actress's sort of struggles with her own personal health and dealing with her diagnosis of multiple sclerosis. I didn't catch this one, but I know you did and responded to it. Tell me a little bit about it.
Yeah, I know. What was the one from Prime earlier?
Val.
It was just called Val, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So just like Val Kilmer was looking back at his career and kind of just dissecting the different, elements of who he was as an actor in the industry, and then being able to kind of flesh out through his son narrating in that movie. Here it's Selma Blair looking back at her career, kind of like seeing how she was always the run through of all the movies that she had done, everything with her growing up with her mom and all the turmoil that she may have gone through, leading up to what would end up being her multiple sclerosis diagnosis. And it's a raw movie, man. That's the only way I could put it. Another one that had played at South by that just recently opened, and I know was virtual, was the. Oh, I'm blinking on that one. Never Gonna Stop or Never Stop Now. Another documentary that
Oh,
does the same thing about an activist. You know what
yeah,
I'm talking about.
yeah.
You'll pull it up. But yeah, so that one was also out, and that one's called following a dude who was fighting for the rights to be able to access certain things, and especially healthcare. This would be from a celebrity's point of view, and just all the different things that she had to go through, and like not even being able to get certain treatments because of MS, and just the various ups and downs that she went through. But the thing about it is that it's, again, introducing Selma Blair. It's her saying, I am no longer the supporting actor like you've seen me throughout my entire career. This is me trying to come to the forefront of it. She is funny, dude. She's got this sense of humor that is so dark. It was catching me off guard at times. But it's kind of like what causes you to, I don't want to use the word sympathize with her, but you really do follow her from a degree where you really feel for her, and it's her trying to raise her kid at the same time as well, and just the different things that she has to describe to her kid about her diagnosis, all while still trying to juggle a career. I really like this one. I thought it was a very personal take, and just look at her life that she opened up to, and she pretty much said it, I know, in the Q&A, that if she was going to let people in, she was going to let them see everything, and she shows you everything. And I think it's important from the perspective of, if you don't know the too much about MS, like, this is someone who's giving you like a front and center look at it, and I think that's always important.
Awesome. Yeah, it's interesting to see how some of these. I'd be curious to compare this one to Val, in that they're both of these stories about these actors forced to kind of take a new look at themselves and sort of present themselves in a new way because of whatever health challenges they're facing. And they both seem very remarkable. I really responded to Val, so I'll have to check this one out as well. Believe it's hitting theaters.
Val's on Prime.
Yeah, Val is available on Prime. This one is going to be on theaters October 15th, and then on Discovery Plus October 21st.
Discovery Plus.
So yeah, if you're
it's one of the first big acquisitions that they made.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah,
shout out Discovery Plus.
Sticking with films that are on the festival circuit, we can kind of swing this back to the New York Film Festival, because I talked a little bit about Wheel of Fortune and Fantasy last week, in companion with Drive My Car, because both of those Hamaguchi films are playing the New York Film Festival. But Wheel of Fortune and Fantasy is actually going to be available in theaters this Friday. So I'll bring it up again because it's a delightful little collection of 3 short films. They are very life-affirming and kind of existential in nature. They all are kind of centered on these conversations, these long conversations. There might only be like 4 or 5 scenes in this movie. Maybe I'm underestimating a little bit, but like he's the kind of filmmaker that has these long, drawn-out dialogues, and that really allow the actors to move from emotion to emotion, from beat to beat. You can see them process different feelings and different things that occur. And I just was kind of entranced by the whole thing. I thought it was quite delightful. I thought it was just a very interesting collection of movies, even if I thought the first 2 maybe were a little bit more interesting than the last one. I just, I think that's always the case when you get these kind of anthological films, is that maybe not all the parts work as well as the others, but none of them were bad. I thought they all had aspects of them that have stuck with me, and it's my experience watching both this and Drive My Car made me really want to catch the rest of the Hamaguchi films that I've missed. So if that's any indication,
that sounds dope.
I would absolutely recommend you check this one out now that it's in theaters. Magnitude Reviews mentions in the comments that Drive My Car was just submitted as Japan's pick for international feature at the Oscars. I did want to talk about that in just a little bit. Actually, maybe it's worth getting into that now before we do our New York Film Festival coverage, if you're interested in it. Uh, we
Yeah, let's jump right into it. We only had one more that we wanted to mention because there's another one that's going to be Oscar worthy. But let's talk about these right now because I didn't know they were going to submit it this early. I think it's dope to talk about these because right now, especially because it's international features, you still have a chance with Chicago being virtual,
hmm
with Philly having what the six that I told you were going to be virtual, that you have an ability to catch these before the year ends and the nominations come out, and you're like, I've barely even seen the best picture ones, much less the international ones. So it's cool that a lot are submitting now. Zach's pulling it up right there.
yeah.
Any of these stand out to you that you've seen or that you're looking forward to? I know you've seen
I think I've seen.
Memorias Colombia.
Yeah, Memoria's Colombia, which is one of the reasons why I was curious about it, given that Weirthical is, I believe he's from Taiwan. So yeah,
He's from Taiwan.
yeah. So interesting that that ended up being Colombia's submission.
Tilda
It is a
Colombia?
film that it takes place entirely in Colombia, for what it's worth. I'll get into that a little bit.
Okay.
I'll get into Memoria more in
All
a little
right.
bit because that's part of my New York Film Festival coverage. But yeah, that is definitely a standout,
Okay.
given that I'm not sure if any of his films have been nominated for Oscars before. Maybe somebody in the comments can correct me if I'm wrong there, but yeah, the chance to nominate one of Joe's movies, Api Chongpong's movies, is interesting. I've heard
Do
some
it.
good things about Two Lions Heading to Venice, the Albanian selection, although I haven't seen that one. I think Mariana also had a lot of good things to say about Compartment Number 6, the Finnish movie, when she caught that in TIFF. So that's definitely one to keep your eye on. We missed the chance. We wanted to watch the German selection. I'm Your Man. That one stars Dan Stevens as like a robot or something.
Robot.
So I'm curious
Yeah.
about that one. As Brady
Woo,
mentioned in his,
Kosovo.
which one are we going back to?
Kosovo.
Oh, Kosovo. Yeah. Speaking
Hive hive.
of Sundance films that are starting to make their way into theaters, Hive, which is one of the ones that we spotlit in our Sundance coverage. That one I think is going to be available in theaters November
Sleep on it.
5th. So just around the corner, but it's already secured Kosovo's submission for the Oscars this year. I would be very curious to see, because I don't know if Kosovo's ever submitted a film to the Oscars before. That'd be curious to find out. Like Brady was mentioning, Drive My Car is Japan's selection. That's my early favorite for what I hope gets nominated. Of all the foreign films I've seen this year, I mean, I really loved The Disciple, although I wonder if that's technically 2021. And then also really loved The Worst Person in the World, as I mentioned on our last podcast, which I think is Norway.
Is it on there?
Norway hasn't selected
Okay.
yet.
Haven't submitted yet.
But next to Worst Person in the World, I think Drive My Car is my favorite foreign film that I've seen in 2021. That or
Sounds
Beyond the Infinite 2 Minutes, but Japan's made their choice there, so I'm happy to support Amaguchi and a really great movie. But yeah, I don't know if I've seen any of these other ones. I don't know if any of them stood out to you, but we'll be keeping them on our radar.
Radar.
One that they actually don't have here, let me just do a quick Google, because I just got an email about Ro from Malaysia. I believe Malaysia just selected this film as their entry for Oscars Foreign Language. So
It was the horror one, right?
yeah, so I was curious about this one.
Dude,
I'm gonna try and get us a link
Malaysia
for
knows
it.
what's up. I feel like a lot of the ones from Malaysia are horror films. I think they also had a Sundance one that they had selected from last year. They just know what's up, dude, and they keep submitting the genre films for that, which I think is really cool. To back up on your thing for Kosovo, they've been submitting since 2014, so they are still fairly new. They haven't even got a decade under their belts. Zana from 2 years ago is one that Alina hyped up to a degree that was ridiculous. It finally got put on Prime, so I will be catching Zana soon. Highly recommend that one from a recommendation that I got. Last year they had Exile. Do you remember Exile from Sundance?
Yeah,
I don't know if you ever got that one.
I don't think
the,
I did, but
the dude with the rats in his locker, and he was like super mad and he took it out on everyone and he didn't know who put him there. Hive's a better selection.
Yeah.
So I'm rooting for Hive to make the top.
Same. Jonas asked if any of the international films may be possible front runners here. Definitely the ones that we've been mentioning. I mean, Memoria comes from like a legendary filmmaker already. And Drive My Car, given that it's had these big spotlight premieres at Cannes, where at Cannes and at TIFF and New York, I think it's kind of got sort of like the critical acclaim already. So those two are definitely early frontrunners, at least. And of course, Worst Person in the World, should that get nominated in there. There also is some talk about whether or not France will submit the new Celine Sciamma film, Petite Maman.
After not submitting last one?
Yeah, so that'll be curious to see whether or not they kind of do a makeup call for Portrait of a Lady on Fire there. So those are some of the ones from International Feature to keep your eye on. I actually think I skipped over one of the things that you wanted to mention that you've been watching. Should we go back to Scenes from a Marriage real quick?
I haven't finished this one, so let's get back to this one next week, but I recommend it, dude. It's pretty good. I see you got the 1974 one out there.
Yeah, which one did you catch, 1974 or 2021?
Oh, no, the new one on HBO. I know they just wrapped up. I was trying to finish it today a little bit earlier. I didn't get to complete it yet, but, I mean, these two, I think they kill it, man. It's going to be interesting to see how they roll this out. This is definitely going to be the one that HBO is going to carry for all of their Emmy submissions and Golden Globes and all that. I've been enjoying it so far. I think it's raw as could be. It's fantastic. Two of the best performers that we have out there right now, in my opinion. I think it's pretty good. I'll talk more about it once I wrap it up, though, because I know that just had its finale, along with Ted Lasso, which I know you finished.
Yeah, we can talk about Ted Lasso a little bit if you want to, because that just aired its last episode over on Apple TV Plus, and I don't want to spoil it because I know you haven't seen the last episode, and there's probably a lot of other people out there who haven't seen the last episode of the second season. They've kind of been building towards something that's not as sweet and not as kind as the show has been often given credit for. I think very intentionally trying to sort of subvert what they've been doing with Ted Lasso and kind of show it whereas the first season is about how his kindness kind of solves all problems. This one's more about how it's not enough for a lot of the things that need to happen in his life. I don't know if, while I kind of buy showing the opposite side of that, I don't know if I bought the final kind of emotional hurdle you have to jump over to believe what happens to the characters in the final episode of the show. It just felt a little bit disingenuous and felt a little bit unearned more than anything. And I know that the actor for one of the characters went on Twitter and wrote out a whole list of reasons why it makes sense that his character did the things he does. It doesn't
if
really...
you have to do that.
Yeah, exactly. If you really have to go note by note and explain it, I don't know if it really works, especially for a show like Ted Lasso. You know, this isn't the first season of True Detective where I'm trying to figure out what Carcosa is. This is a sitcom about feelings and emotions and bonds and happiness. I don't know. It hasn't fallen off the map for me. I still find it funny, although I think there may be, you can feel them bending backwards a little bit more than they did in the first season for certain jokes. Like for example,
I agree.
Ted Lasso in the first season, his thing is like those analogies, right? Like I wish I could remember one off the top of my head, but like when he's like, oh, that's as soft as something or whatever. They've given those lines to a bunch of different characters, like his son on a Zoom call answers with one of those quips, and it's like, you're a child, your mind doesn't work my mind doesn't work that fast. So it just reads a little bit more bogus than it did on the first season, but I still find it funny. I still am charmed by it in the second season. I know you enjoyed the recent appearance of a character actor we like quite a bit, a funny man who's done his share of work on I Think You Should Leave and Others.
Sammy Boy, bro.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I'm just missing the last episode. That's the only thing that I need to finish. But in terms of this season, I feel a lot of it is set up for the third.
Yeah.
Some of it may feel contrived. I don't want to say that yet until I see how the third one plays it off, because I believe that they're just looking to make it a trilogy of seasons, and then that's it. They're going to end it with it, which is still pretty great considering where Ted Lasso started off, and that was as a Fox Sports commercial. And now look at him. He's got 3
NBC
seasons that he's
Sports.
booting up over here. Yeah, and I said Fox. Sorry, NBC. My bad. And I agree. The first season is a lot funnier. I think the first season is a lot more organic, I want to say, because I think one of the big things that a lot of people enjoy about the show is that it's not political. Man, I can make you a montage how political this show is, but the beauty in it is how it's able to just convince you that it's not, how it's able to just quickly go from one thing to another without really putting it in your face. I think it's a little bit more in your face in the second season.
Yeah.
I think the characters are really honing in on their attributes, if that's a way to put it. You know what I mean?
No, in
they're
the
really
first season,
relying
you're
on the
finding
thing that
out
they're
who
known
they
for.
are, and in the second season, you're doubling down on who they are.
There you go. So, again, I agree with you. It's not. It doesn't make it. It's just a middle season. It's not bad, but it's not as great as the first one was. What is great though, and we believe should get nominated for a couple of stuff, particularly in acting, is the final festival selection that is supposed to be in theaters. I don't know if it's in theaters near you or what the rollout for this movie is going to be, but Mass, a movie where a lot of our peers who went to Sundance are arguing and fighting for this movie. The moment that I believe it's Neon, no, Bleecker Street. The moment they announced their campaign, which I believe was one of the first Oscar campaigns that said, "All right, it's time, baby." It's kind of like Christmas lights, right? Christmas lights started going up in November and October. These Oscar campaigns
Earlier and earlier every year.
Earlier and earlier, which is why we'll be starting our campaign for 2023 starting next week. But as of now, we're going to be talking about Mass, which without a doubt is going to secure, I believe, some of the best spots for acting just all around. Just right off the bat, click that director. Because some of you may not know Franz Kranz, but you'll know his face.
Look at that.
What? Zach, tell him what the movie's about.
One director credit. Let's switch it up to the actor credits because boy's busy. He's been in a lot of stuff that you probably know, a lot of stuff you probably love. You probably recognize him.
And it doesn't include the shows.
The Cabin in the... Yeah, true. If anything, you would probably recognize him from The Cabin in the Woods, where he played the stoner character in that movie. Classic. But yeah, he's the writer and director of this really riveting film, Mass, that we caught back at Sundance. I was a huge fan of it. I know people who are in our sphere, like Matt Niglia and the Oscar guys, are big fans of this one as well. Shout out the Oscar expert on that one. Shout out Mariana. I didn't realize she was also a huge fan of this one. But yeah, I really love Mass. I want to get a chance to rewatch it because I love films that have that feeling that they're like a play. I know that's something that is often used as like a derogatory comment, that it feels like a play, but the way in which plays sometimes are able to let you linger in a room and feel like the vibe of the room, right? When you are watching a live production and the actors have a silence, it doesn't feel boring because you're watching them feel each other out and you're watching the actors process those moments. And I think this is a movie that achieves giving you that feeling of sitting with people as they live their lives, right? As they try to evoke this very unique experience through a very contained medium. And that's not to say that the film doesn't move. I think the camera is doing really interesting things on where it's choosing to land, who it's focusing on for very pivotal moments, the way that it explores the room and kind of gives certain moments more room to breathe than others. I think there's a lot of very intelligent writing in this, how the intensity level will be ratcheted up and then it'll be deflated, and then it'll be ratcheted up again and it'll be deflated. People, one of the great films of all time is 12 Angry Men, and I think it's another film that works on this kind of level where it's like being able to kind of play with you while not like throwing to all these different scenes is a huge talent in itself. Maybe that's a crazy comparison to make, but I think that this is like a really, really excellent movie. I'm worried that it will maybe be a little bit too low key for the Oscars tastes, because I kind of hope this gets like 2 or 3 Oscar nominations for acting, maybe a screenplay nomination for Fran Kranz. But it didn't hit any of the fall festivals, which is interesting. You know, usually these
Usually,
movies try to get that
Mhm.
boost from a TIFF selection.
and it
So,
did
yeah, what do you
really weird. But
what
yeah,
do you think about its, first of all, the film, and then also its standing heading into awards season?
Martha Plimpton. I don't care if the rest of them don't get nominated. Martha, without it's gotta be her.
Unreal.
Easily. One of the things, yeah, the screenplay, I don't think it's a bad screenplay. It frustrated me to no end. And at a certain point when we were doing our Sundance coverage and we were getting to this one of the things that I was really looking at was like, I was mad, I was frustrated, I was angry. I was like, no, that's not right. I wasn't saying that's not right for the screenplay. It's that it's written for you to get frustrated with some
Yeah.
of these characters. How dare they say that? And that's when I was like, nah, it's a solid movie, solid performances. And in a scenario like this, you're not going to like how it plays out. I hate some of the where the conversations go,
Mm-hmm.
and I realize that's just an attribute to what the scenario would be like. Um, I want to see it again for the performances, but I don't want to sit in that room again because, as Zach said, you are in the room with
Yeah.
these people. It is designed for you to just feel the awkwardness of this conversation. You want to get up and leave just like some of these characters do. Man, you want to get up and smack some of these characters as well. That's the effectiveness to the acting, I would say. I do believe the script could have been a little stronger at points, but the actors just eat this up. It's fantastic. So
Absolutely.
I am hoping that it's able to gain some stuff for the actors in particular. So hopefully, I mean, a lot of movies that I believe are going to be at the Oscar races didn't do fall festival, so there's a chance this one may have it, but it's all down to, again, I believe it's Bleecker Street and how they're able to roll out that campaign. Maybe they saved it. They saved all that money from the fall festivals and traveling for the campaign.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Yeah. All right, so definitely check out Mass if you have the chance to. I think it's going to be one of the best films released in this year, and it's definitely going to get some awards, even if they're only critics awards. It's certainly going to be in that conversation. So, once again, shout out Fran Kranz. I want to talk to Fran Kranz. I want to try. Let's try and get him on the show.
Funny
Fran,
guy,
if you're
bro.
listening, come on the show.
Funny
Come on
guy.
Intercut. So I think that's most of what we've been watching. We can get to the New York Film Festival stuff in just a second, but maybe let's take a quick break to do some yay or nays, because there's some interesting things happening in the film world that are worth talking about. And let's start it off with something that I know is frustrating Magnitude Reviews as a dude who does not live near a major city, and that is, of course, the release strategy that Neon is employing for the film Memoria. I'll talk again what my thoughts on Memoria in just a sec, but let's first talk about this news, because Neon is taking a really interesting approach to their exhibition of the latest film from Apichan Weerasethakul. Instead of doing a traditional wide release or doing even a limited release that starts in New York and LA and then eventually makes its way to Chicago and stuff, they are doing a 1 week at a time, one screen at a time release of this film. It's going to open, I believe, at the IFC Center in New York later in December, where it'll play for a week, and then, like it's a museum piece or something like that, it will go on tour across America to different art house theaters for a 1 week only engagement. So make sure to book your tickets while the carnival is in town, otherwise you won't get to see the latest film from Joe. It's a very interesting idea, and not necessarily one that on its surface I am against, if it weren't for the second half of it, in that
You have to denounce your Netflix and all of your streaming platforms in order to get a ticket. No, this second half is dumb, dude.
Yeah, this film will only play in theaters. It will not become available on DVD or on demand or on streaming platforms. And by the way, that's not saying like in its initial release, that's saying ever. Neon has no plans to ever put this movie out on streaming. So if it's not booked in theaters, I guess good luck. Like, let's ignore the fact that there are people who don't live next to or within driving distance of an art house theater where they could feasibly see this film. What happens if there's a film student 3 years down the road that wants to catch Memoria? Are they expecting to still be on this tour, or are they expecting them to like find some cinema in like the hills of Colombia, because that'll be the only place it's showing at that time. Like I'm very just.
They gotta wait for the Momo release.
It's very bizarre, and like it's cool that like I guess it'll give an incentive to play retrospective screenings, but like it's weird to rely on that. I don't know, man. Like I this was the first time that I've gotten to see one of Weird Ethical's, actually second time that I've gotten to see one of Weird Ethical's movies on the big screen, but like I didn't get to see Uncle Boon Me on the big screen, and I would have been really upset had I just like never had access to it. It's very strange.
Yeah.
I don't like it. I don't know, do you feel like it's elitist, or do you feel like it's just stupid?
The most elitist people on Twitter love this decision. That should answer everything you need to say right there. I think it is super dope the way that they are releasing it. I like that.
Yeah.
I personally think that that's what a lot of movies that are independent movies are going to have to do in the future. Again, not to bring in this 40X that I was watching earlier. Scorsese was right, bro. I am sitting there in this 40X theater realizing they're going to turn half of these things into this the moment that they're able to pick up on it. And that is going to be the biggest divide on being able to have these independent theaters go out, as opposed to what they're going to be doing when it comes to the division of what's going to go to streaming, what's going to go into theaters. It's only going to be big blockbusters, and it's only going to be the indies that usually go at home. That's the big fear that a lot of these people have, right? That's the reason why a lot of people justify their elitism. I think the biggest divide that you can have is the way that you transform theaters into being more like amusement park rides. And when I was sitting in that 40X theater and the stuff was shooting at me and I felt I needed to put my seatbelt on, it felt like an amusement park ride.
Yeah.
This movie is not going to have a 40X version of it, right? So eventually, I feel 10, 20 years down the line, we're going to have to do rollouts like this for these smaller movies where it's going to feel like a tour. This isn't unusual. Like you said, the way that things open in New York and LA, the way that things do film festivals and we wait for it, I think it's kind of cool. If you're able to secure a screening for a week in your show, in your place, it's going to be cool.
Even Kevin Smith did something not so dissimilar to this with Red State. Remember, he went on like a national tour with Red State.
And that was dope because he was there. How, is it not even cooler to even have the people? You're not just getting the showing there. You're supposed to get the entirety of the people there. That's really cool. Mm-hmm. What do you mean you're not going to put it up on? Streaming is one thing. I feel like it almost got straight bullets because they hated streaming so much. I feel like it's something against streaming. And then they said include DVDs, include any video on demand. That makes absolutely no sense to me because of what you said. So many people have seen and discovered this director's work. Tilda Swinton's work, who's also a partner in creating this vision through VOD, through streaming services. It makes absolutely no sense for me. And here's the thing. I'm not even taking it seriously. Sure.
Well, okay. Here's the other thing. I kind of feel like what's realistically going to happen is that Apple or Paramount Plus is going to buy Neon in 5 years and just throw this movie on Paramount Plus. No? Like,
that's the other part of it that makes some sense. Yeah.
Like they're saying forever.
Hulu already has all these rights.
Yeah.
Why?
In this age of film distribution, like forever isn't that long, and things change. And like Quibi was only supposed to be available on your phone, and now it's coming out on Roku.
So yes, it is elitist for the people who don't live in these big cities because they are not going to go to every single city. They're going to go only to the big cities. They are not going to avoid streaming because then there's a lot of people who can't go to theaters at all. And I think it's really redundant and pointless and belittles half of the movie-going audience, more than half of the movie-going audience, because most of the people who find films like this are finding it when they're in college, like you said. They're finding it years later or whatever it may be. So to just have it be like a museum exhibition, nah.
Yeah. A couple comments from Brady. Movie theaters are not the museum. Yep. And then also... he doesn't have a problem with the release strategy in theaters, but the rejection of streaming and physical. That's a great point. Physical media, like Criterion, is apparently not good enough of a exhibition platform for Memoria.
Hopefully Quibi picks it up.
I know we got a couple comments also about another piece of superhero news, so let's hit that quickly. Because our boy, Weird Face himself, Will Poulter, is set to play Adam Warlock in the next installment of Guardians of the Galaxy.
I like it.
I don't know what an Adam Warlock is. I think I know what a
He
Warlock
does
is.
things.
If that's
Yeah,
related.
he's got like powers.
I assumed that
Okay.
because this
Yeah,
is a
they've been
Marvel
teasing him.
movie. Um,
They've been teasing him like crazy. So, wow. Actually, he's got. They're gonna have to like really fluff up his hair, but I think it's gonna work. I like the picture right there that they're using for him. That's gonna be pretty solid, and especially considering the tone and the comedy that is brought in the Galaxy movies, I like that.
yeah, he's a guy who can
Good
kind
for him.
of ride that line between serious and comedic well. He's got like a villainous face, but he's also got, I feel like, is able to sort of play that for humor. So I can imagine James Gunn will take that to advantage. Yeah, I mean, I wasn't a huge fan of the second installment of Guardians of the Galaxy, but I still think
Okay.
there's a lot of
People love it.
promise in the franchise and that group of characters. So yeah, I like this.
I mean, just the circumstances in which the third one was written, I know he had it ready, and then after everything that he went through and stuff, like I'm excited for that script, dude.
Yeah, totally. So this works for you as casting, like your knowledge of
Oh,
the
it's beautiful.
character works.
Yeah, he just needs to get a little buffer. So
They all go through that program. They all get the steroids. They all get the personal
Marvel
trainers.
got the money.
They'll Kumail Nanjiani him for sure.
Him and Tenoch might have been even working out. We don't even know.
But yeah, good look for our boy Will Poulter. I feel like we repped him during that Movie Stars Under 30, knowing that he had some potential for the future, and look at him now. Look at him now.
Good for him.
Yeah. All right, so I think that's it for the movie news that we're gonna hit. I'm gonna switch it up to some of the New York Film Festival movies because there's a lot of stuff worth talking about. Let's get back to Memoria though, because that is one of the films that I was able to catch over the past week. Fortunately, it's not a film I liked very much, although check out my friends here on Letterboxd. I am definitely in the minority. Not a lot of people, well, maybe a couple people, but most people are pretty high on this one because there is undeniable beauty here. There's beauty in just about every Weird Ethical movie that has been made, and I even enjoy getting to those moments of beauty. But in order to experience that transcendence in one of his films, you have to sit through, half an hour, 45 minutes of just like excruciatingly slow cinema, shots that last for like 5 minutes uninterrupted of people
Nice.
sitting in fields, walking across those fields, standing up and sitting down somewhere else. It is a very, very patiently assembled movie, and I can't really say that it's like bad. I can only say that my ADD is too bad to really appreciate what's going on here, right? Like I think this is a me problem, not a him problem. But if you are also somebody who's maybe a little bit bored by slow cinema, I just don't know if this is where I would recommend you start. I'd maybe recommend you check out Tropical Malady or Uncle Boonmee, some of his other films, because I just found there to be a little bit more than what I found from Memoria. Obviously you have Tilda Swinton here doing a really incredible performance. She's mesmerizing. She said during the New York Film Festival Q&A that I was at that she didn't think of Jessica, her character, as a person but rather as a predicament, which is the kind of thing that when Tilda Swinton says it, it's like, all right,
That's such a Tilda.
sure, I get it, I think. But when it does work, when all the things that they've been kind of letting wash over you, all the sound design, all the beautiful Colombian scenery, all of the predicaments wash over you, and it comes to certain moments, it feels worth it. Like, it does have a pretty killer ending. I gotta give it to them. I just don't. It's a movie that I did not enjoy watching. I kind of just enjoyed having seen it, if that makes sense, right? Like, I can't recommend it for the experience of sitting down in a movie theater, but I can recommend it for like having the knowledge of what that movie did. So maybe Memoria is for you. Maybe that sounds like way too slow for you. Shout out to What's the Matter saying that it's a meditative movie. It's absolutely a meditative movie. But I just don't think it worked for me. So shout out to Memoria. Maybe it'll hit a city near you soon. Another movie that played at the New York Film Festival that I liked quite a bit is Hit the Road. This is the new film from Pana Panahi. And if that same name sounds familiar, despite the fact that this is his debut, it's because he is the son of Jafar Panahi, the acclaimed filmmaker of his own right, who we've covered on this podcast before. The dude arrested by the Iranian government and told to stop making movies, who then went and made like
the
5
goat,
more movies.
Bro.
Yeah, we
the GOAT.
We like Jafar. He's an awesome filmmaker, a really interesting guy.
This is his kid.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that made me super interested.
How do we know it's not just his dad?
Right?
Filming through the kid.
Under the pseudonym or something?
What's crazy is that that's like right up his alley, especially with what he did with the last one, with filming 3 short films and then combining them because he wasn't allowed to make a feature, but he could make 3. Oh, all right. So this one's good because I'll be catching this one in Chicago.
Yeah, this one is very good. I saw this one with Carson, who said like at first it reminded him of Little Miss Sunshine, and like I totally see that because it's this family road trip thing. Okay. And right away, I think what's really good here is Panahi gives you a sense of who all these characters are and their relationships to each other. You know, they're very strong characters who are carrying a lot of history, obviously as family, but there's open resentments, there's frustration. They're tired of being on the road with each other already by the time that this movie starts, and it lets you kind of get these very humorous moments, these very fun interactions. The loose premise here is that a mother and father are driving their elder son towards the border so that he can cross it, while their younger son, who doesn't know what's going on, is along for the ride. But it's really about these moments, about the characters that they come across, about these cinematic flares, these like very beautiful, fantastical things that happen to them. I just thought it was a very delightful film, despite some of the sort of heavy elements that make their way into the film through some of the dialogue and things like that. I loved it quite a lot, to be honest. I think it's a great time. I think it's a great piece of character filmmaking. So highly recommend it. Hope you get to check that one out too.
Will do.
What else do we got from... Oh, Anwar Kasi said that can't wait to watch Hit the Road. Yeah, it's a good one. Definitely recommend that one. Moving on to some more films that played at the New York Film Festival. The closing night film was the latest from Pedro Almodovar. It's Parallel Mothers. And Almodovar is a great filmmaker. Hopefully you've had a chance to see some of his work in the past. There's a whole bunch. He just like iconic filmmakers. So many big movies.
Fact they didn't submit this is insane. And I was hearing a lot of talk about that as well.
Yeah. I mean, they submit his movies a lot, so I guess they maybe are just tired of it. But this is a great film, and it also is a film that's so integral to Spain that I'm surprised they're not putting more attention on it. Here, he's kind of doing 2 things. He's telling the story of these unmarried women who are pregnant and give birth at the same time, and sort of the different trajectories that they take as mothers and how their stories become intertwined, how they can't sort of escape each other in a way.
Okay.
And meanwhile, there's this other story going on about the sort of lasting legacy of the Spanish Civil War and this unrest in the communities that are trying to bring some resolution to the pain they've experienced. Penelope Cruz opens this film asking someone to help her excavate a gravesite where she believes that her great-grandfather is buried. So you have these 2 different elements kind of guiding you through the film that sort of... And I think one thing that Almodovar does really well is that he gives you a nice balance of like real-life drama, human elements, and then this sort of like greater mystery, these kind of like almost fantastical elements, that things that are could only happen in movies, it feels like. And I think it's just a very intriguing mix of tones here that's particularly well done because you have Penelope Cruz giving a great performance, as she tends to always do in his movies. But here's yet another one. I also really liked Milena Smith, who plays the other of the two mothers here. It's a really interesting film, one that I'm sure other people will be able to dive way deeper on, people who have a greater knowledge of the history of the Spanish Civil War and the types of things that Almodovar is trying to evoke here. But there's a lot to chew on, and I definitely it's one that's going to keep you thinking after you see the film.
It was one of the first to sell out of Chicago, so I'm hopefully going to get a chance to sneak in there.
Yeah, I'm hoping you can see that one too, because it's a really good one. Again, the closing night from the New York Film Festival.
And Brady's right. Not only did he have Pain and Glory in 2019, but last year, he was like Kendrick when, even if he didn't have an album, he had a mixtape out. He released that short last year with Tilda. So it's like, this man doesn't sleep.
Yeah. He's always busy, Almodovar, always cranking stuff out. And yeah, like you mentioned, that The Human Voice with Tilda last year was a great short film I really enjoyed.
All right. On HBO.
The big one, though, the big film from the New York Film Festival, Dune, which already made its debut at a couple other film festivals, but I finally got the chance to see it. I know you've been very curious about this one. It's our boy, Denis, of course, the man, the myth, the legend, maybe the great hope for blockbuster filmmaking.
The best filmmaker of our generation right now. Best filmmaker alive right now, working today. I've said it before, I say it again. I reserved 2 seats for this a month ago. Tickets weren't on sale. I just took the 2 seats out of the IMAX theater so they couldn't be reserved. I've been waiting for this one. Zach, why is that Why is that heart not filled in?
Maybe I need to see it again. And maybe I just need to see part 2, because that is one thing that you have to kind of preface, is that this is very much part 1. It's not even like in the Marvel, you'll see Captain America again, part 1. Like this is a part 1, like an episode 1. Yet I was riveted by this one. I was awed by this one. I kind of really, really, really like this one. It in terms of epic blockbuster filmmaking, I'm not sure there's much more you can ask for than sick-ass outfits, sick-ass dragonfly spaceships, Jason Momoa showing up and being like, what up? Just like all the fun stuff. A great cast here. I didn't even realize Javier Bardem was in this until I heard his deep voice. Great cast, really great scenery. The score from Hans Zimmer just sort of, transports you and like makes you feel things. It's gonna be awesome to see it in the surround sound in the theater. That's really the best way to see the. This is a movie that earns that big screen reputation, right? It's in terms of its plot, like I was lost in a little. I don't want to say I was lost. I would say that like I wasn't fully involved or like felt like I knew everything that was going on, but I knew enough. I knew that there was sort of palace intrigue and like betrayals happening enough to carry me through and kind of give me enough room to focus on the effects and the visual presentation, just the I don't know, the showiness of it all, right? Even if it's not necessarily showy in the traditional sense, Villeneuve has his own way of giving you a showy quality through these very dynamic setups and these really epic landscapes. And man, it's a film that feels as big as the movie screen. It feels like it from that huge ass sandworm to the
all I want
to those spaceships. Like it earns that blockbuster feeling. So I was transported. I just had a good time. Yeah, it didn't really resolve at the end, but I never really expect these movies to anyway. So I don't know. I was into it. I'm gonna be back for part 2 should that ever come.
Stop! Don't say that, bro. I still don't get why he didn't film. He should have filmed them back to back. Obviously, it's all up to the money part of it, but yeah, he should have secured that and just automatically had that Lord of the Rings style already filmed. But I hope they do. I hope they finish it. I've even been hearing from some people because I don't know if you read the book. I have it upstairs.
I
I've been putting
haven't.
it under my pillow, sleeping with it, hoping that I wake up and uh, get all 700 pages in my mind. But I hear that it's almost like a third. Like
Yeah.
it's
Um,
not just part one. That it's like part one of three.
Yeah, a lot of people are saying that it really, really is like the beginning of what's happening. And look, I haven't read the book, so I can't tell you exactly how much of the story they did or did not cover. But for what it's worth, like they seem to be selling Zendaya as kind of like, or Zendaya as like the female lead of this story, and she's barely in this movie, man. Like no spoilers, but she almost doesn't show up by the time that this movie ends. It is really like teasing you for what's to come. I don't mind that, but that I'm sure it's gonna bother some people. Um, I just was really enamored by the vision of this world. Devesh mentioned something about the effects, whether or not they were fixed, because some of it doesn't look good in the trailer. I mean, you know, I gotta be honest that I'm not somebody who's typically super critical of visual effects,
Mhm.
but to me they all seemed kind of awesome. Like, not necessarily. There is that one moment. I think I actually know what moment he's talking about, where it looks like his face is painted in. That's the one moment that stood out to me as not seamless, but it's the only moment that stood out to me as kind of not seamless for what it's worth. So I didn't have a problem with the effects for the most part in this movie. I want to see it again.
I'm checking
I
for
enjoyed
tickets
it.
for you.
Yeah.
I'm checking for tickets for you at the what is it? The Lincoln and AMC up north in New York. That's a big IMAX, bro. You know how big I am with IMAXs. That is one of the best IMAXs in the country.
Yeah.
If you don't go rewatch it there, bro, you got one seat. It's a handicap seat in the front, but I think you can score it, Zach. Before that rat from Central Park buys it from you, you need to go secure this seat.
Yeah, I might have to wait for the second weekend for my Dune screening, since I've already caught it. But I do think I want to see it again on the big screen. Like, I didn't get that IMAX experience, but I still enjoyed it. I know there's a lot of a lot of people are kind of like IMAX or nothing, but like I just wanted to see Dune on
That's me.
a
That's me.
I I look, it justifies it. That's what I will say, is like it really does
Okay.
justify that big screen experience, and I'm sure I would have maybe even like got a little bit more of that epic feeling had I seen it in IMAX. I'll go back and I'll let you know, but I'm very curious to see what you get out of
Story
it when we get to it.
story wise, would you rewatch it on HBO Max?
I might, I think it depends on how soon I feel like I'm going to see it again. If I can,
Okay.
figure out a time that Caitlin and I can make it to the theater, maybe I'll hold off. But like, if I don't think
Okay.
we're gonna go for a few weeks, I might just pop that bad boy on October 22nd. Give it
At
another
30 days?
whirl. Yeah, it's fun.
I'm
Like,
just excited for this one. I'm really hoping.
yeah, I could see
Leave
it
it to
being
Denny.
something that I
Denny's
kind of just
Denny's the
throw
person
on.
who would film as much. Nice.
Yeah,
Sounds good.
yeah, and I mean that as a compliment for what that's worth. All right,
Well,
so
if the movie could also just be beautiful looking, Blade Runner is one where obviously you need to be paying attention to it, but that's also a movie that you could just have on and just look and be like, wow. Didn't Kanye have it on? Kanye just had Blade Runner on that wall
Yeah.
projector that he had when he was doing the album.
yep,
So, hey, leave it to Denny.
exactly.
Best filmmaker today.
Anwar Kasi said, "How come Dune is released much later than in Europe?" I don't understand. Like, I don't understand why they decide certain things should be released first in other countries and later in the U.S. Like, this is also No Time to Die. I think the rest of the world gets before the
They got
U.S.
it in the UK first. That one made sense. Well, not for the rest of the world, but it made sense for it to premiere in London, considering that's the Brits' Captain America
Yeah,
right there.
yeah.
But yeah, I mean, there have been various things like the Avengers. I know Ultron was released overseas before over here.
Could you imagine them
That's
doing
just a
that with
logistics issue.
Endgame?
No,
Or right?
don't even say that. Spider-Man, don't say that.
Oh,
That's a
man.
different multiverse. We don't live in that one right
Yeah.
there. But yeah, no, we're not fans of that, obviously, as people know, with all the virtual screenings and everything that we've had going on. We love the accessibility, and I mean, it just comes down to the territories and the different business options that they make.
Yeah, for sure.
Real 3D Dune is an option? Uh, I'm not a 3D guy, but do you see anything in this movie being 3D worthy?
I mean, I don't know. It IMAX seems good enough. I don't usually go for the 3D. Yeah,
If it's not shot in 3D, no reason to see it in 3D.
yeah. I didn't
Because
hear
it's
anything
shot
about
in
it being shot in
IMAX, you
3D.
literally have more.
Yeah.
Then he would never do 3D, in my opinion.
All right. So yeah, those are.
Text me specifically.
So those are our thoughts on Dune. Hopefully, y'all are gonna get to see Dune soon, so we can all talk about it. Maybe we'll get into more on Dune later. But that's just about it for my New York Film Festival coverage. A lot of good movies out of the New York Film Festival. I think if I'm just gonna do like a super quick and dirty top five, I'd put The Worst Person in the World at number one, Red Rocket at number two, Drive My Car at number three. Maybe I'd go Dune at number four and then Hit the Road at number five, but all five really, really strong. Oh, you know what? I missed Come On, Come On. So I think I got to kick Hit the Road off of that top five and throw Come On, Come On at number
And we just secured those tickets,
three.
boy.
Yeah, yeah.
I think the only one out of all those that you have that's not going to be at SIFF is Red Rocket. But I think that may be at the Critics Fest, so we'll see.
Very cool.
I'm excited.
Very cool. All right, so I think let's wrap this up with some new to sees. Talk about the movies that are in theaters or on streaming or available to the people right now. Art, why don't we kick this off with a little bit more talk on Squid Game? I know a lot of people are really into Squid Game. It's the most hyped thing on the internet right now. It's apparently the biggest show Netflix has ever had, if you're to believe their numbers, which in this case, I kind of want to believe it, given that it's, the chatter of social media, the chatter of like my friends. Like that's how I know that something has really transcended, is when I get my friends texting me about it, because they don't give a shit about the stuff that I watch, but they want to talk about Squid Game.
Relatives who haven't talked to you in years going, "Hey, have you seen
episode 6?
Do you know about season 2?" So what'd you think?
Yeah, so you talked about it a little bit last week. I finally caught up with it. I binged the whole series. I was impressed with how much this show caught me off guard and surprised me, especially at first. There's a moment very early on. I think it's episode 2, and like I'll try and say this without spoilers, but like they have to make a decision about what's going to happen going forward, and you're on episode 2, so you're like, well, it's obvious what decision they're going to make, and then they make the opposite decision, but make it make sense. They are able to do surprising plot twists that feel justified and kind of keep you guessing, I think, through basically the first 5 episodes, and then it gets to episode 6, which everybody is kind of like highlighted as the big episode, the really impactful gut punch episode. And maybe it's because I knew that everybody was really excited about that one, that I didn't respond to it as highly as everybody else did. It's when the show stopped surprising me and started playing into my expectations a little bit more. They've set up a really interesting world and set up characters that you care about, so I was still compelled and interested in how those interactions would play out. But I guess when I saw what was coming a little bit more easily, it just made it a little bit less of a show that I was just like delightfully surprised by from moment to moment. So I still liked it. I don't know if it's that deep. People are talking about like, oh, it's really resonating because it's about how capitalism is hard to deal with. Like, is it any deeper than like, hey, people don't have money and they would do crazy things to get a lot of money? Like that, I don't know.
That's the first step, I guess, for some.
Yeah, I kind of find the social commentary to be a little bit deeper in like the different versions of this type of story, like in the Battle Royales and Hunger Games is out there. Where this really where this really exceeds for me, platform's another great one. It is in the design of it, the production design of it. Visually, it is a really eye-catching show. We talked about it briefly last week, that just that screenshot that scrolls by on your Netflix when it's telling you what you could watch, where you see that like Escher style staircase with the bright pinks and the bright greens and the masks with the shapes. It's just it just draws your attention and looks so dynamic. So I was, TV typically doesn't.
Did you see YouTube?
What was that?
Netflix has a YouTube channel, and they have an hour-long shot of just the staircase.
Really?
So they are fully well. I'm gonna send you the video, bro. They are fully well aware. You know the Yule logs that they release every year, where it's just the fire burning for like 10 hours straight. Netflix literally put together one just for the Squid Game staircase. So you were spot on with that. They literally just released it this past week.
Look, they know that they've got something cool there. That's just like cool to watch in the background. I think that's a lot of what really works for me about the show is, despite it being on TV, which, sometimes there's some budgetary restraints in terms of TV's ability to give you these grand sets or give you these dynamic visuals. That really worked for me. The music worked for me too. And the performances also were very, very good, I thought, on this. So even though it's, I don't know if it... What really does deserve the hype these days, right? Like, nothing can really live up to the hype. It's certainly entertaining, but, like, we're talking about, like, this is a global phenomenon. What do you think? What do you think about the whole, like, global phenomena of it all?
Look, everybody's got Netflix around the world. The ability to be to have a global phenomenon, I think, is a big deal. And what was it last year? Tiger King? Yeah. It's like, is there any rhyme or reason for what's going to make one of these shows really big? Like you said, there's no reason why it shouldn't be. I can see why people enjoy it. Could it easily be given to something else? For sure. I mean, you look back at the list, right, that they had in where this is supposed to be the one that hasn't even been considered yet, but it's supposed to have that past Bridgerton and Money Heist. It also has stuff like Extraction on there, right? Part of me wonders how much of the algorithm has to play with this, because it's enjoyable enough. Like, I don't think anybody hates this. I don't think anybody will be bored by it. But I think it all comes down to, like, how they push it that ends up on people's feeds. The people from Netflix have come out and said that they have these algorithms ready to go. Are they not the ones who released that documentary about how your phone has these gears and everything, it'll profile on you? They're the ones who released that. They're literally the ones who released that. So when I see something like Squid Game, and it being a foreign language production that has complete English subs, as we've always talked about, Netflix is really big on having that, because they know a minute in, if people have to read subtitles, they'll leave. So they forcibly pay for subs or dubs. There's also been a lot of discussion on the dubs for this one, not just the dubs, but even the subs, on how it's not fully translated. There's, that dilemma as well. But nonetheless, it's still ready for international audiences to go into it, not just in English, but in any language that you want it to. They make it as accessible as possible. So shout out to Netflix, really.
Yeah.
I think it's a solid show, but I think it's more of an attribute to Netflix that this always has something going, as opposed to for HBO, when it's Game of Thrones. I don't have anything on Peacock, Paramount. We're waiting on Prime to release what? Lord of the Rings. So for Netflix to have something as tiny as Squid Game that not no one's radar, it becomes something that ends up being word of mouth. That I think is more of a positive for Netflix, to show that they really they know how to release things. They know how to put it on your radar. And I mean, it's not catching, bro. We're gonna see this all over in Halloween, man. People could be dressed in these outfits.
For sure.
Good lord.
I look, something that we can speak to just from our own experience with the YouTube platform. The thumbnails and the algorithms play a much bigger role in something's success than people ever give them credit for. And the Netflix algorithm figured out that this would be a hit with a bunch of people. They figured out that screenshot is super compelling. I mean, like, just anecdotally, and Caitlin brought it up to me as soon as she saw it. Like, what is that? Is that a reality show? Is that some kind of movie? Like, it just kind of catches your eye. Even the name Squid Game is a little bit like, what does that mean? it does its job of catching your attention and bringing you in, and then it is kind of bingeable, kind of like just you need to find out what happens next enough that it carries you through it. It doesn't necessarily have to be the most artful thing or the crappiest thing either. It has that something that just like draws your attention and yeah, really works for engagement. And I do think it is good enough that it also was able to sustain word of mouth, right? Like people enjoy talking about this. People enjoy thinking about what they would do in this. I think I saw somebody tweet that like
people
enjoy thinking about what would happen if like it happened to them. I saw somebody on Twitter say we should get one of these battle royale style movies once every 5 years. And like, I'm surprised we don't get them more, because every time whether it's Squid Game or Hunger Games, you know,
there you go.
Yeah,
that's what it is. People would do anything for money, and they see a movie and they're like, all right, I can live it out through there instead. Right? Look at The Purge. That's what made The Purge so big. That's what literally caused The Purges to become the type of stories that they were, is that they literally yelled at the creators and said, why is it inside a house? Make it the whole thing. So they did. And now what are we at? The Forever Purge. So when it comes to Squid Game, you just have a bunch of people who would be like, man, I'd win this game on the first day. I think that's what the real big draw is for people as well. So
yeah. Magnitude points out that it didn't have a lot of marketing until it became this immense hit. I mean, I would say that like, even though it doesn't have a lot of the traditional marketing, for Netflix, big marketing is just putting it in front of you, having it show up on one of those tiles. Like that just, it matters so much. And I know from like anticipating the release of The Disciple and then just literally not being able to find it when I searched Disciple on Netflix, like how Netflix places their stuff is hugely important.
Exactly.
Hugely important. It's
you ever watch
YouTube front homepage-ification of streaming content.
Exactly. You ever watch something and you go back and it's not even in your continue watching? This has never left my screen, no matter what. It is always there, and that's the biggest part of it. It's while you're on the platform, they're going to put all that money in there and making sure that you see it, and then whatever hits.
Yeah. So that's Squid Game. Let us know what you think about Squid Game, because it definitely has caught a lot of people's attention. Were you able to avoid spoilers? Because I got spoiled on a couple things. I was upset about that.
I mean, by the time, I did.
Yeah.
By Alina.
Oh.
Because she was just watching it.
Oh, from inside your own home.
But, yeah, I was just watching. I was like, what's going on here? It's like, it's a marble game. I was like, who's winning? And she just told. Go ahead.
I was going to say something else, but if you have another thing.
No, I was just going to give my 2 picks on Hulu for the week.
Oh, yeah,
in case, someone has Hulu, they don't have Netflix. I would say Gunda, one of the documentaries that we really enjoyed from last year, is finally getting its release because Neon has a deal with Hulu, unless it comes down to Memoria, where they are releasing their stuff virtually after a bit. So if you were curious to catch Gunda, not going to be for everyone. Super pretentious. No score. Black and white. You're just following a pick. If that sounds exhilarating for you, catch it. It's on Hulu this weekend. Give it a watch if you are intrigued by it. I also highly recommend a lot of the interviews from the director. He gives a lot of the backstory of his own, Gunda that he grew up with. So that is on Hulu if you are interested. I know I had a little bit of a limited release.
Yeah, I have talked about... sorry, I was just going to say, I've talked about Gunda plenty on here, but like it's like if Emmanuel Lubezki took his camera out to the farm and captured these animals. It is immaculate looking. If you're somebody who just really responds to beautiful cinematography, definitely catch it. And also, if you just think it's cool the way that filmmakers can take animals who don't speak things and then make you feel their emotions just through the power of movies. I was blown away by some of this movie. So yeah, now that it's available on Hulu, I'm hoping more people see Gunda. What else were you going to talk about?
Go watch Pig, Gunda, and then go catch Lamb. Also, sticking on Hulu, The Premise. Zach, I never thought I'd say the words. Did you catch the new BJ Novak?
No, I haven't seen this yet. I gotta say, even though I read some like mixed stuff about it, they're playing the ads on Hulu a lot, and I know you're not a fan, but whenever Lucas Hedges is like, I don't know what to do with this feeling, should we make a music video with it? I laugh very hard. So tell me of what you think about BJ Novak's comedic Black Mirror?
To a degree, it's not as much Black Mirror as it is just like, as he says it's a premise. He is a producer on the show, writes a lot of them. He comes out very Alfred Hitchcock at the beginning, and he goes, "Hey, it's BJ Novak. This is the premise," and he goes through it. The first one is Dear Evan Hansen, having a sex tape that just so happens to show the police doing something in the background, and he's gotta be like, "Am I a social justice warrior who's willing to put this on the line, or do I have to recount everything with my ex-girlfriend who I shot the sex tape with?" The Lucas Hedges one was also not that bad because it's about this dude who has promised his old high school that whoever becomes valedictorian, he's going to sleep with them. My personal favorite, the one that really stands out, because it is mixed, bro. There's only one that I actually really, really like. The rest are just like enjoyable. The best one is the one with John Bernthal. He is a father who lost his daughter to a shooting, and he decides to go apply as the spokesperson for the NRA. That one I think is super solid. The rest of them are interesting though. They get really goofy at points. They, maybe at times kind of drag, but I think at the end of it, the whole point is to have this really, out there premise or goofy scenario in where it's really just the interactions of the characters and how they would react to it and what they would do or how bonkers it gets. But out of the 5 that are out so far, I'd say the one with John Bernthal is easily the best. But I'm curious your thoughts on it. I want you to catch it because you know what? Even the Lucas Hedges ones, there's honorary Lucas Hedges hater, kind of made me laugh. So the premise over on Hulu. Awesome. And I think they're releasing these weekly. But I would highly recommend the John Bernthal one.
Very cool. Yeah, man, Hulu really, really trying to compete, not just be Disney's little brother. They got a lot of interesting stuff on there. Excited for that Only Murders in the Building finale coming up, too.
Yes, sir.
All right, so I got 2 picks for the week, I guess, because I guess you could call Mass also one of my picks for the week, since that's a great movie and it's going to be in theaters Friday. But
solid.
One is more of a digital one. The other is in theaters. Let me start with Please Don't Destroy. Do you know Please Don't Destroy?
No.
This is like a comedy troupe that has a bunch of videos on YouTube. I found them through Twitter, where they've been retweeted into my timeline quite a bit. But this trio of guys here, they've found some success putting their sketches up on the internet, and enough that they are now
digital shorts.
They're now on Saturday Night Live, and they're apparently going to be, the inheritors of the Lonely Island digital short legacy. They had their first one on the most recent SNL, this hard seltzer sketch, which I thought was pretty funny. But if you find that one funny, or are just kind of curious about who these guys are that are being positioned to potentially be kind of like the new Andy, Akiva, and Yorma, check out Please Don't Destroy on YouTube. Check out their stuff on Twitter. I find them very funny. They've got a unique, silly, kind of off-the-cuff, nonsensical style that works for me. And I think it's probably gonna be some of the stuff that goes most viral from SNL this year. I would be willing to wager that bet.
I mean, bro, it's been, 10, 15 since they've done these digital shorts? They had a whole... they could have done a lot more in between, so it's about time.
I mean, they keep doing the digital shorts, but they don't have that, like, same perspective and same personality. And I think because these guys are pretty distinct in how they do their form of comedy, they maybe will resonate a little bit. So check out Please Don't Destroy stuff. But the more traditional pick that I have for this week is our boy Ridley Scott. One of 2 movies in the fall coming from him. Let's go Last Duel. Man, I was kind of nervous about this one, if I'm being honest, because like Mass, for some reason, this one avoided all the fall film festivals. And typically, like, if you're trying to do an Oscar play, or if you're trying to announce your movie as, like, this is a really big, important film, you get that Venice premiere, or you get that TIFF premiere, and you ride that to build hype in theaters. Last Duel chose not to do that. It's going straight to theaters. And yet, I really, really responded to this one. It's the latest script co-written by Ben Affleck and Matt Damon. So the Good Will Hunting boys.
Who let them in again,
together again at last. Also handing off the reins to Nicole Holofcener to do some of the writing. Nicole Holofcener, mind you, not exactly a shabby filmmaker, to her own credit,
Ooh.
has done quite
Okay.
a bit of good stuff. So you have a really deft trio writing the story here. And then for the cast, you've also got Jodie Comer. You've also got Adam Driver joining the boys from Boston here. And in a story that has, let me cue myself up, Rashomonic qualities. I love that word, Rashomonic. It is a split structure in that they're giving you the story from different people's perspectives, and you kind of learn a little bit more about the story through each retelling of it. I really ended up liking this one, even though it is a weird mix of ideas. There's kind of like a epic action medieval brutal movie here with like very upsetting deaths and bloody moments and just very like intense action that you would expect from a Ridley Scott movie, given he's the dude behind Gladiator and such. But then there's also this like very interesting like takedown of masculinity and machismo, and like calling these guys out for being bloviating idiots. And then also there's a harrowing like rape revenge story that ties it all together. It feels like these stories shouldn't all exist within the same film. They do, and it is amazing, and I wish there was more drunken Ben Affleck to share with the world, because it is an amazing performance, and if there were justice in this world, he would be getting a Best Supporting Actor nomination this year. I really liked The Last Duel, man. I liked it way more than I thought I would. What did you think?
Man, I have not seen this. I put it on the thing because I have it as my one thing that I want to see in theaters. Halloween Kills is going to be on Peacock. It's going to be in theaters as well, but it's The Last Duel that I'm excited to go see. So I have not caught it yet. Here's the biggest part of it, though. The Chicago Film Festival is playing, and it's taking all the biggest screens.
Really?
Venom's out. No Time's out. Halloween, I believe, may get the digital. I wanted to see this on a massive screen because everyone keeps saying the actual Duel lives up. And I might as well just, I don't know.
Jay's pointing out that
when it gets here.
Jay's pointing out to me that Last Duel showed up at Venice. So I had that wrong, but usually it does more than just a Venice showcase. Like usually a movie that's coming out this quickly, it'll show up at a couple of the other festivals still. And I just don't remember hearing that much.
And Ridley with Gucci just did it.
Yeah, yeah. So I don't know, but I was really, really into it. I'm hoping you catch this one soon. What's the matter is saying that it looked super meh from the trailer. I get that. It didn't have the best trailer, but
I like the trailer.
This is really good, man. It really, really works for me. I thought it was like there's elements of it that are pretty campy, and I think it's intentionally so. Like there's a little moment where Adam Driver does a thing with his like cape, and like at least for my theater, everybody cracked up. So. You know, it's one of those movies that might not play as a comedy if you don't watch it with a crowd. I think this is very intentionally a comedy in lots of moments, and it worked for me. It's very, very funny. Okay. The performances are very broad and hammy. I don't think this is an Oscars movie, despite what some people thought, given the big name talents attached to it. It's kind of more just like a straight entertainment piece that, you know, has some interesting things to say. But I really liked it. I thought it was much better than I expected to. I saw it the same day as Dune. I might have liked it a little bit more than Dune.
Yeah, so thank you guys for watching the show. You can catch me at LV Explain on Twitter. I'm excited for it.
Yeah, you should.
I know someone had asked between Last Duel and I didn't see what the other movie was. If they had to pick one of the two between Lamb, I think it was Lamb or Last Duel, which to see in theaters. From what you're saying, clearly the Last Duel.
Yeah, I mean, like I also really liked getting to see the Last Duel with an audience. You know, getting to hear people laugh at the strange pronunciations of certain things, or like the silly little moves they do, or it's just a fun movie. I think these are guys who are very much in control of their performances too, and I don't know, man. There's maybe a little bit of it. Maybe drags a little bit too much. There's something that happens with movies that lean heavily on flashbacks, where because you've already seen what happens, you're a little bit like, all right, let's get to the new stuff. And
Retreading.
yeah, I felt that a little bit, but I don't know if I minded it so much because they're also kind of showing you how you take a different perspective and it gives you a new light on what actually occurred, you know? So I like this one. Keep it on your radar. I think that is it, though, for our picks for the week. We can stick around for a second and answer some questions if anybody's got them. But I don't know, man. What are you excited for? Tell me a little bit about your upcoming week. I think the Chicago International Film Festival starts before the next time that we talk. So what are you trying to catch?
Yep. Should be starting this Wednesday. I'm trying to see as many as I can virtually. Some of the ones that I'm excited for. I know that they will have showings for Come On and Belfast. But I'm literally the top 5 that you had, man. That's the one that I want to get. I want to see Worst Person in the World. That's one's been on my radar. I want to see all 3 hours of Drive My Car. So yeah, I mean, by next Monday I should have a good couple of picks. And Last Duel as well. Lamb. And I won't get a pillow, but I am excited to see the Rescue as well.
Yeah. The Rescue is definitely good. I'm very curious to see what you think of all those movies. A lot of stuff on the slate. I'm definitely going to try and catch Lamb this week. I'm going to try and catch No Time to Die this week. I'm going to try and catch Mass again this week. And yeah, there's some TV too. Like I said, Only Murders in the Building. I think it's coming up on its finale, so I wanted to see that.
Okay.
Scenes from a Marriage.
Jim Cummings' new movie will play.
That's going to play Chicago, right?
At Chicago.
Yeah, so that's
in
on our radar.
person only. Zach,
Exactly.
they had virtual. I know because I printed out the schedule. You can after I've printed it out, I know it says virtual on there. Virtual and in person.
Well, see, it's going to VOD same day as it's hitting theaters now, which is so frustrating because like, why are you not doing virtual screenings for the early, whatever. I don't get why he was so insistent on the in-person thing at that point. This was like February 2021, I think, where it was playing Berlin. Like nobody was vaccinated then, and he was like, "No, in person only. My movies are made for the big screen."
Only in theaters.
Jim Cummings.
1 week. Never gonna be in streaming. It's a museum pick only. But we'll see. I'll be catching it.
Yeah, I still want to see the movie. I'm just annoyed by the pretension of it. Like that bothers me way more than Christopher Nolan being like, "Tenet is made for the big screen."
At least he shot as an IMAX.
Yeah. Although I'm nervous to talk about. I was just gonna say I'm nervous to talk about Jim Cummings bad and publicly because he probably follows half of us. You know?
No, he used to.
Oh yeah, he unfollowed us all.
He followed all 17,000 people who he did follow for follows.
They did not play
beta
beta test virtually at Tribeca. They did not. Jay, you're
They
lying.
did it. I know because we were there. We were there. Thoughts on Blonde with Ana de Armas getting an NC-17.
I'm so excited for that. I think that Netflix would let an NC-17 cut slip through their fingers, but from what I hear, the movie gets like very dark and very sad towards the end, and knowing that
So does the book.
Yeah. So like knowing this is Andrew Dominic, no?
I'm not sure who is the director. I just know that this movie was supposed to be even pushing like 3 hours, and it coincides also with the news of what happened with one of our favorite Sundance ones, Pleasure, and how that got picked up by A24. Only for A24 to want to have 2 cuts. They wanted to do an edited version that they were going to do in theaters, but still keep the NC-17. And they were like Andre 3000's on Donda, and they were like, nah, we only going to have 1 version. So then they gave it up over to Neon, I believe, who's not going to be releasing that one. So, I mean, Netflix has everything, so they're going to be pushing it.
Yeah. So Andrew Dominic is the guy behind. Here, let me pull this up. He is the guy behind the assassination of Jesse James by the coward Robert Ford and Killing Them Softly. Killing Them Softly, in particular, has like some really dirty, dark depictions of like drug use and stuff that makes me feel like that he's going to really pull this to an uncomfortable place. And I don't know, I trust Andrew Dominic. I think he's such an interesting filmmaker. I'm hoping for big things for Blonde. It's part of this whole like wave of Ana de Armas movies we're getting that's supposed to like launch her to that next level. She's a weird choice to kind of portray like a Marilyn Monroe type of figure, but I guess it's not like literally her. It's just supposed to kind of be her, right? It's like one of the, I don't know.
Kinda. We'll see. I'm excited for it.
So we got a couple other questions here. Brady asked thoughts on Timmy in the Wonka costume and that film in general. Timmy Chalamet is donning the famous top hat as Wonka in a prequel series, I guess, about... it's a prequel movie about the chocolatier's origins. I don't know, man. You excited? You ready to dive into that cinematic universe?
I have absolutely no excitement for it at all. I think all the memes have been funny after you released the picture. I didn't realize Wonka was that big of a property. I guess, some people want to be Bond. Others want to be Wonka. I don't know. Are you excited for this?
No. Why would I be? What is there to do? Why do we have to make everything? Why do we have to prequelize everything? I don't care.
So we'll see. I don't know.
It
looks decent.
Yeah. I don't know. I also kind of feel like, if anything, like maybe a Wonka show could be interesting, but like I just feel like a movie's only gonna give you this like very small sliver of like, trying to upend which I don't know. I just think there's only so much you can do with a movie. Just thinking about like how Cruella is like this whole made up. I don't know. And I just don't think Timmy Chalamet is like that dynamic of a character. Like I can't see him being as interesting as like a Johnny Depp or Gene Wilder. He's like a more brooding type to me, not like an irreverent, eccentric character.
I mean, maybe that's what he's trying to be. I mean, you have to realize like Timmy's also on his second half where he's not going to be able to play the teen heartthrob and everything. So he's trying to figure some other iconic roles.
Yeah. What else do we got? Anna Maria asked thoughts on The Guilty. I don't know if you caught the adaptation of was it originally a Danish film?
Mm-hmm. And it's over on Hulu, and I highly recommend it. That is a fantastic feature. The Guilty over on Netflix by Antoine Fuqua, who also has... I feel like he's trying to get everything on streaming.
Yeah,
he also has
every streaming service.
Infinite over on Paramount with
Mark
Wahlberg?
Yeah.
Yeah. I caught that one. Bored to tears on that one. This one isn't bad. It's trying to do an American version of it where now it's taking place in California, and one of the issues with him being one of the responders who's taking a call and he realizes that it's a woman in distress is that it's also hard to get to her, not just because of all of the other narrative things that are going on with that scenario, but there's also a fire because it's taking place in Cali. It's okay. I feel that as we know, a lot of the American versions to these, they don't really hype it up to the next level. They're just trying to take the novelty of what made that project really cool. They're like, "Ooh, that's nice. Can we try to spin an American version for this?" I think Netflix is the best place to have it on. I don't think you will be bored. I think it's an accessible version of this story, but I think the nuances in the original Guilty play a lot better because a lot of the visual style for this one is close-ups, which isn't bad because that's what the original has. But it felt like a lot of the close-ups in this one were just like, can we do what they did in the original? Did they do close-ups? Let's do close-ups then. And I'm like, it kind of works. Jake Gyllenhaal's giving it his all. There's a bunch of push-ins on him just like crying and exasperating, but it's all right. It's good. It's decent, but I think the first one just hits a little bit better.
Cool. Yeah, I haven't got around to that one. It's a shame, man. Fuqua was the director that I think we were excited about at some point. I actually just went and watched Training Day for the first time in many years recently, and like that movie is still so like thrilling, and like the performance is so good in it. It's just, he hasn't quite had anything on that level since then. What's the matter asked, have we talked about the humans yet? I don't think I brought up the humans last episode. I saw that as virtual screening as part of TIFF. If you follow me on Letterboxd, shout out at Zshevich on Letterboxd. I just passed 1,000 followers on Letterboxd. I've gave that film 4.5 out of 5 because I really really liked it. I kind of want to save some of my thoughts for when we have a chance to go into it a little more in a little bit more depth. But like that's one of the movies that like I liked so much that it ended and I ran it back. Like I wanted to see it again. I wanted to see certain moments again. Kind of like dive a little bit deeper into it. I ordered the book of the play and the previous play that I think Stephen Karras is the guy who wrote it. Ordered his previous play so I can read them both. So I'm like all in on The Humans. I thought it was a really interesting look at the kind of alienation that people feel even around their own family. The way in which you can be a stranger to your loved ones, and sort of like the uncomfortable things that lurk within us. And we were talking a little bit about Mass and how that's a film that feels like a play. Despite the fact that The Humans was based on a play, there are many moments where this does not feel like it's something that should be on the stage. There's a lot of really interesting visual things that happen, even though this is a film that's entirely set in an apartment. I think he's done a lot with the sound design, particular, to really evoke some other ideas here. So sure, I'm hoping that it can sneak into some of the acting categories for the Oscars, although like I'm not sure that it ultimately will, because it kind of feels like it's a movie that's maybe a little bit too small for that award cycle. Plus it's getting this weird release where it's coming out day and date, it's coming out in theaters and going to be available on Showtime, I think, on the same day, yet it's still Oscars eligible.
Good thing I just got it then.
Right.
Okay.
But I still highly recommend it. It's definitely one of my favorites from the year so far.
Okay.
Anna Maria said, have you guys read about the new Sean Baker film? I've seen the new Sean Baker film, unless you're talking about like some casting announcement or something that they made, because I'm not that up on what's going on. But if you're talking about Red Rocket, it's really good. I talked about it in the last Intercut episode. You can check that out. Elsewhere, and Jay also saw Red Rocket, says it's the best film of the year for him. Had a hard time imagining anything will dethrone it except for Licorice Pizza. I hear you there. I'm saving Licorice Pizza a place in my top 5 of the year. Also, shouts out Guillermo del Toro has still got a movie around the corner, Nightmare Alley. It's something might end up on a lot of top 5 lists. Wasamana says that he's stoked about The Humans, I believe that is. So shout out to that. Jay says Simon Rex for Best Actor for Red Rocket. I agree with that as well. Anything else we got here? We got a question about, did either of you see Midnight Mass? I think, Art, you talked about that last episode too. So feel free to head back and watch that too. Anyway, we are going to wrap things up here. Think we have a lot more to talk about. We're going to get into some exciting stuff soon. We got Succession right around the corner. I think our next episode is going to be a Succession character bracket. So make sure you get your picks in for who is the best Succession character in now. Maybe if you have a good enough comment, we'll include it in the next episode. So make sure you're on the lookout for that. And let us know if there's any movies you want us to cover in the future episodes. We'll be on the lookout for them as we try to get all these fall festivals, pick up all these virtual screenings and VOD screenings and whatever we can as we keep covering things here on Intercut. Also, a shout out to our wonderful patrons on Patreon, the Academy level donors. They are Connor, Andrew Christensen, Tushar Sharma, Ewan Graff, Wasamata, D.A. Zapata. Thank you all who have been supporting the show. To those of you who are not at that $5 tier, a reminder that we do a monthly Google Hangout with our patrons, which will be at the beginning of the next month. So if you want to come and chat with us, best way to do that is show your love and support for the show over on patreon.com/intercutpod. But I think that about does it for this week. You can catch more from me, Zach Shevich, by following me on Twitter, Instagram, or Letterboxd at ZShev. That's ZSHEV as in I didn't even pick my V as in ICH. Art, where can people find more from you?
You can find me over at LME Explain on Twitter, on Letterboxd, here on YouTube. I see some of the other recommendations people are giving us. Haven't seen those, but we'll try to catch up with those. Get them on the what we've been watching for next week, which is where you can catch me every week on the Intercut Podcast.
You can catch every episode of the Intercut Podcast on iTunes, SoundCloud, Spotify, or your favorite podcatcher. I like Overcast, and then make sure you're subscribed not just to the audio podcast, but to the video feed as well on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/IntercutPod, where you can catch our bright, smiling faces as we break down the latest in entertainment. Find new episodes of Intercut every Monday, and please leave us a comment, like the video, and consider heading over to iTunes to give us that much requested 5-star review. Like our Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter pages. All of them are at IntercutPod to support the show and get updates throughout the week from me, from Art, and from all the guests that we feature here on Intercut. Thanks again for tuning in, and until next time, don't you think it should cost less to be alive?
Yes.